Hey folks, well, the Leafs have sputtered in fits and spats, and we now find ourselves with an official losing streak. What's happening? Well, you know what? We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. That's Katie, and I'm the Diva. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Listen, folks, remember, subscribe, ring the bell. You'll never miss any content. Also, like and share the videos. Helps broaden the audience. And comment on these videos. We listen. We take your input seriously. It helps us get better. Okay. Leafs are out west this week, but that doesn't seem to want to stop the OZone, does it? You know what's coming, folks. You know what's coming. It's another edition of Where's Coach?
Okay, Where's Coach? Love this segment, guys. So, hey, as Devo said, we don't rest. Just because the Leafs are out west, we got to see them. Kev, we stayed up, watched that debacle of a Vegas game. But I had to go see it in person, so I went to the game in San Jose. And here's a picture outside the SAP Center. Tough night for us eventually, but I was able to get a ticket pretty cheap anyway. Here's a shot of the Shark. They're skating out of the Shark here. In case you're wondering where they keep that shark head, it's up here in the rafters. Hey, guys, the building was okay. It's in a so-so part of town, I guess. There were probably 7,000 people in there. Like, the atmosphere really wasn't very good. Announced attendance was, I think, 12,500 or something like that. There's no chance there's 12,500 in there. They've had 4 losing seasons after having been one of the best draws ever, right? But the atmosphere wasn't great. And that building isn't that great either. Here's a shot. So I'm looking here. There's about 2.5 minutes to go before the period starts. And I look, and there's some guys walking along on the ice, right? I'm like, oh, what is this, some kind of fan giveaway? They're going to go, walk around. So I zoomed in. That's Keefe and his staff. Take a look at this. So they can't get to the bench from the bowels of the arena. They got to come out in the corner, like that sort of northeast corner, and walk all the way around to the west side to get on the bench. What kind of building is this? So it was crazy. But, hey, like I said, I had good seats. There it is. That's the start of the second. So, not bad. And it was nice to fight back. Now, longtime listeners of the pod will recall this was game 8 of the year. I went game 7 last year, the 7th game, to Carolina. Similar experience. We were struggling a bit, but I went to that game, and the reason being, I want to try and get to every NHL arena to see the Leafs play. So here's where I'm at right now. So the Leaf logos are where I've been, and the circles are where I need to get to. So I got Seattle, I got Western Canada, which Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, and then Long Island. And I think I might leave Long Island until those folks have settled down over the whole Tavares thing. But I'm aiming to knock 1 or 2 more out this year. So at least from a personal standpoint, I was happy with the trip. I think you guys might get into the actual hockey on the trip.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's get back to the road trip. 3-1 loss to Vegas. They were clearly outmatched. Then a 4-3 overtime loss to the Sharks. They got a point at the game you were at there, Coach. They battled back in it, but frankly, they didn't show up for the game. There's some problems. Some of these problems we've seen earlier on in the season. Bad passes by D, turnover in the neutral zone, poor effort. But it seems to be a recurring theme. Katie, what's happening? What have you seen?
Well, we'll get into lots of the problems. There are many. I think when we were texting during these games, they get a little bit heated. And certainly on the D side, we can see very glaring mistakes, which are easy to point out or whatever. But Leafs after 8 games have 22 goals for and 22 goals against. That means that goals for, they're 2.75 per game, goals against 2.75 per game. Put that in perspective, that ranks them this year tied for 7th in goals against, and for goals for puts them down at 27th. If we were to look at that last year, if they were to that same numbers, they would have been 5th in goals against, pretty good, and 27th in goals for. So if we want to really look at from a big picture, we have a goal scoring problem. We don't really have a goal against problem. Again, we can break into the individuals and the individual mistakes, and obviously there's clearly problems on both ends. But we have to start getting the puck in the net. And also, the vast majority of our Leafs cap goes to scoring goals. So we have to, we really have to address that. I think Samsonov's been good. He's 9th in the league in save percentage. He's 8th in the league in goals against. Shalgren hasn't been great, 853, and Murray had one game, 826. So backup goaltending not ideal. Starting goaltender it's been fine. So again, we have to figure out ways to get that puck into the net. Now, I can't statistically prove it, but one thing I've noticed over this year is that teams, I think, are starting to play Leafs hard at their blue line. They're not backing in. They know the Leafs are going to be driving and trying to control the puck. I think one of the guys that we read statistically put up that if you gain the zone with the puck, you have a 3 times better chance to get a shot on net than if you dump and chase. But the reason why you dump and chase is to turn the D, make them think that they've got to scramble and turn around. So I'm not suggesting that Leafs need to turn into a dump and chase team, but what they need to do is dump once in a while, and I think dump early. Similar to like the long ball, right, in football. You throw it once in a while to soften the D up. I think you need to turn their D a little bit, get them thinking that the puck's going to get behind them. Hopefully that backs them off. There have been lots of turnovers, too, in the neutral zone and bad back checking. So, I think getting some pucks deeper might help with that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is kind of elementary stuff, right? I mean, you got to outscore your opponent. There's no question of that. And I know when you take a deep dive at some of the advanced stats, the Leafs aren't necessarily as bad as the outcomes but it doesn't pass the eye test to me. And you watch 82 games a year, you know what the stinkers are, and we've seen a lot of stinkers already this year. Like they're as bad as they can be. You mentioned, Katie, that the Leafs are built to outscore their problems in a lot of ways, and they aren't really that stout on the back end. And they don't really have the kind of guys to play stout on the back end. And the guys they do have are either hurt, like Muzzin, or Hall, who's really not having a very good start to the season, to put it as mildly as I can. Now, he was terrible last year as well to start the season. If you go back and look at some of our early episodes sort of 1 through 5, there was a lot of Hull in those episodes as well. Feel free to go for a deep dive, folks. But to me, the issue is the Leafs the last couple seasons have been dominant on the face-off dot, and I know a lot of advanced stat guys sort of say face-offs don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but they also really outpossess their opponents, and they're kind of middle of the pack right now in both of those two type stats, and that puts a lot of pressure on their D, and their D aren't good enough. So, I mean, to me, they got to get back to doing what they do. If that's gaining the zone more efficiently, KD, like you were suggesting, I think you're absolutely right. They got to try something different. When the 2-time goal-scoring champ has less goals than Kampf, then you got serious scoring drought going on the top part of your lineup. And maybe that stuff just starts to normalize or correct itself when the puck starts going in. I think Coach pointed out in the last episode that I mean, the shooting percentage for those top guys, it's abysmal. There's got to be a regression to the mean there, and that's going to change the fortunes. I think.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right,
what are
guys.
you saying? The advanced stats say we need John Brophy behind the bench, dumping chicks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well,
No,
I
look,
think a little more
hey.
variety. And, I think, Coach, you talked about before, and I think one of our big fears at the start of the year was we had a top pair, and what we had more depth on D, but it was all sort of third pairing D. So we have a minute muncher in Hall who's never going to put up a lot of points and not really a shutdown D and needs to have some help to play top 4 minutes. We have two undersized Swedish kids who neither have played 100 games, and then we have an elder statesman in Giordano whose body is getting older and he's not moving around much. So
He's still their most steady guy.
but
without question.
but he's also
He's
playing
steady because he stands there. He can't move anymore. Yeah. Yeah, he's like a weeble.
So I think the real issue on that D, I think, is you have to find a way to get that top 4 group, because I think unfortunately you have too many guys who play the bottom pairing.
There's a bunch of 6-7 guys on that. Yeah, but you guys are both right. That's not the issue. The issue is David Camp leads this team in 5-on-5 scoring.
Yeah.
He has three 5-on-5 goals, which is 3 more than Matthews. So yes, that the scoring has to get going. That's regular season. We're putting aside the fact that outscoring your problems does not work in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've got some short-term problems here, which is we got to score some more goals. So I'm with you. Look, I think we're going to get into it next.
Yeah,
You either
actually,
keep riding this, or you got to shake some stuff up.
So okay, let's get there. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions, and let's just bring it. All right, bring the fire and brimstone if you have to. 2 questions: what needs to change and change fast? And if it doesn't change and change fast, when does Keefe get fired? KD?
Well, what needs to happen is the core needs to be the core. They need to go back to being dominant, scoring all over the place, and controlling the puck, and people adapting to them. And I don't know if that means you got to fire the coach to get a new look, but the GM has shown that he has no interest in adjusting this core. He's just going to pay them more money given the opportunity. That's all he's going to do. So either you do both, or you do the whole group, or you do Keefe, or you do something. But you gotta jolt this core back into playing dominant hockey again and scoring.
Yeah, I mean, does the GM even know another coach? Speaking of which, Coach, what do you think?
Who else is coached in the Sioux? It does not help Keefe that he's coached against some guys this year that are better than him. Vegas is one. Bruce Cassidy's just a better coach. That roster isn't as good, but he's a better coach. I don't know who coaches San Jose, some guy, and that's an AHL lineup. That did not help. But so what do we have to do? I think, I said it after the Tampa loss, said it all summer, I think they need to make a major move. I think they got to shake up the roster. I think they got to trade a core piece. And the guy that unfortunately fits the bill that can be moved is Nylander. I think he has to be moved. I think you got to shake up the roster that way. I don't think that's going to happen. As Kev, as you said, he's ride or die with these guys. When they asked him, when they signed Tavares and then Matthews to that money and Marner, they asked, hey, can you keep those guys together? And then Nylander held out, right? He said, we can and we will. Well, he's going to die with this roster as is. So Keefe could be fired as early as Thursday. They've lost 2 in a row. Okay. We got LA and the Ducks, and then Philadelphia on Wednesday. So a losing streak does it. It did it to Babcock. It's a little early. I think that the team rebounds. I think the team understands the seriousness of what's going on. Guys, we talked about it. It feels different this year. The record's pretty much the same as last year right now, but it feels different. The expectations are way higher. Say 2 years ago, lost to Montreal but it was a garbage year, right? It's the Canadian division. So you didn't really know how good you were. Then you go in, have a 115-point season, right? And lose like just by a hair to Tampa. The expectation is we're much better than this, and we're struggling again. It feels different. It feels like something's got to change. Dubas is in a lame duck year. So anyway, the first losing streak of any merit, I think he's got it. One bullet left to fire. That's firing Keefe. That's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just throw one thing out there. What we heard at the end of last game from Keefe was that, the main thing he threw under the bus there was that we needed to have better passes coming out of their own end. And listen, we've seen Hall, handle the hand grenade a few times this season, and it was certainly that way in the last game. But my goodness, when you pay your top flight forwards that much money, and you blame everything on passes coming out of your own end by second-rate D. I mean, you got Victor Mete back there, and I don't care what anyone says in any article, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Tanner. Mete is not an NHL player on any team in the NHL. He's just not. He's an experiment that never worked out. So you got the coach now grasping at straws and throwing a second-rate decor under the bus because you can't score goals. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the coach didn't build the roster, right?
Yeah.
He looks across, and Barabanov is playing for San Jose on their top unit. He had 2 assists. He could not crack this roster. Why? Because it's a squeeze, right? I mean, you got to find guys that make the minimum that play their way, and he didn't, so they moved him for nothing. He's on the top line in San Jose. The coach didn't make the roster, but the coach is running out of bullets too. He had a shot at his top guys again after the San Jose game. He said, look, that top line, the Couture line, they were a problem for us every time they were on the ice. Well, They were matched up with either Matthews or Tavares the whole night. So that's a kind of backward shot at his stars. He's doing that. He's right, but I don't know if it helps.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. Hard to believe we're here, right? That's funny. We were in the exact same spot as we were last year, pretty much. Ironic coincidence? Nah. Anyways, we've got you covered right here on the OZone.